Welcome to a new edition of the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino. On this episode, we talk with author and writer Jaime Reyes. He was born in Puerto Rico and emigrated to Philadelphia when he was 8 years old. The transition was difficult at first. Different weather, living conditions, different languages, and worst of all, the widespread racism. He survived and in time overcame the obstacles. Over his career, he has been in active military in the Philadelphia Police Department and wrote articles for local newspapers and online news services. He has had a number of near-death experiences and has several books that get into that. The first one was in 2018 called In the Beginning, The Early Days of Religious Beliefs in 2018. And the second was The Lazarus Syndrome, Why Can't I Die? It's quite a story. Enjoy. Well, hey, man, it's great to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out. Before we get into your life as a writer, I want to know, I know we're getting tired of talking about COVID, but it was such a big event. How did you survive that COVID time period, and how has it changed the way that you do things now?
I have a thing about flus. I never get the flu. I never get a flu shot. However, because of the severity of COVID-19, I took the better part of value and I gave myself. I got the vaccine, and I've gotten all their boosters, and I have never gotten COVID or the flu. I'm just lucky that way. I don't know why I'm immune to the flu, but I happen to be immune to it. But I still take the boosters. It didn't affect me any.
Gotcha.
It affected my family. Everybody was sick around me, but not me.
Interesting. So let's get into your life and what you do right now. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third grade students. It's career day. And one of the kids is curious and says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer them?
But right now, I only write. I'm retired from just about everything, but I write to keep busy and because I have some ideas that I want to put on paperwork. But my career, I'm an Army veteran from Vietnam. When I got out, I opened my own business, and I did that for a few years. But then I entered a police department. And then I switched to the sheriff's office because I was a single parent, and police have to work shift work, and it's very aggravating when you have a kid at home. So I switched to the sheriff's office. The job is almost the same, and I did the police for 5 years, and I did sheriff for 25 years, and then I retired from that, and I started writing. I went back to college after I retired. I didn't go back to college. I had never been in college, but I took advantage of the VA bill, and I got my BS degree in 2 years instead of 4. I've read so many books that you could skip classes if you can take a final exam on the class, and if you pass it, you get the credits without having to go to class. It's called CLEP, College Level Examination Program. I write about it in my new book because I wanted a little bit of biography, so I added all this Vietnam information and police information and my college time. And now I just write. I'm getting old, so I don't do much else. But something I enjoy, and if you're doing something you enjoy, you're not really working.
That's for sure. So let's get into how did all of this happen for you? Take me back to where you were born and raised, and how you've been so driven and so determined, not only in the bulk of your career, but to write and to do everything that you're doing now. How did this happen?
Well, here's the thing. My mother taught my brother and me how to read and write when we were still in diapers. We weren't in school. She taught us. She only went to third grade, but she taught us just about everything she knew up to third grade. And I entered first grade. No, there was no kindergarten at the time. I entered first grade when I was 4 years old. I was the youngest kid in the class. and I already knew how to read, so it was a waste of time to learn how to count, to learn the alphabet. So my teacher would sit me in the back and give me books to read while she taught the other uh, little kids how to read. And while I read books, and I was reading newspapers when I was 5 years old. Not news, I was reading the comics and little interesting stories. And I've read so many books. And anyway, um, when I was 8 years old, there was in elementary school. They had a contest. Not the school. It was a school newspaper. Actually, it was a state newspaper called the Weekly Reader, but it was only sent to elementary schools. They had a contest, uh, and I don't know what the prize was, but you had to write an essay, and I wrote one, and I entered, and my essay was about. Um, I compared primitive religions to current religions, Roman mythology, Greek mythology, Norse mythology, to the newer ones, Islam and Catholicism and all the other ones. And I didn't win. I got honorable mention, but my teacher told me that I would have won had I not concluded the way I did. Because my conclusion was that I believe that if the old religions died out, then the new ones are likely to die out eventually. But anyway, that story, uh, uh, that idea festered in my head for years and years. And finally, when I was in my 60s, I had a massive heart attack, and I flatlined twice. And when I recovered, I decided I was running out of time, that I better put the story that I had swirling in my head for so many decades. I decided to put it on paper. So I wrote the book, and that became my first book. It's called In the Beginning, The Early Days of Religious Beliefs. It's historical fiction. Everything there about Neanderthals. I made Neanderthals the main characters because doing my DNA test, I found out that I'm 3% Neanderthal. Uh, it's not unusual. Just about everyone with European descent has some percentage of Neanderthal DNA. But anyway, I wrote that book, and it's doing very well. It's called In the Beginning, The Early Days of Religious Beliefs. And then and the publisher asked me for a second book, sequel. I said, I know every character in that book is died, so I can't bring them back. I don't like to do revisions. I don't like to do flashbacks. So they told me to write a memoir, but I told them, look, I've done a lot of things, but I don't think anybody's all that interested. But they told me, I had mentioned I wanted to write a book called The Lazarus Syndrome. That's about an incident that happens in hospitals or out of hospitals where people are declared dead, but they come back to life in minutes, hours, or even days. It's a real event. It does happen. It is not reported often because medical personnel, doctors especially, don't want to advertise that they screwed up and declare someone dead when they weren't, and they're afraid of lawsuits. So it's not reported as often as it happens. But it's happened to me several times. First of all, I was stillborn. I was born dead, and I was revived. And then in 2017, I had a massive heart attack where I flatlined twice, and I technically died twice, and they brought me back. So I've been through that Lazarus syndrome myself, and I had been reading about it had started to become popular, and I did a little research, and I said, "What is more? This is happening to a lot of people, not just to me." So I wrote about case histories. So this is nonfiction book. It's all case histories of people that have done it. Uh, Most of them have only done it once or twice. I've done it quite a few times. That's in the book. No spoilers for now. And I was searching for situations that were similar to mine, and I happened to find one. Uh, Pablo Picasso, the Spanish painter, he was born exactly the way I was, and he was also stillborn, and he was brought back to life exactly the same way I was. They used cigar smoke to bring him back, but they used cigar smoke on me also to bring me back. And the events were 60 years apart, so I think the CPR for babies hadn't changed in 100 years, I suppose. Uh, so it worked for me. It worked for him. It's worked for a few people. And I wrote about all the different situations that I researched. And um, anyway, it is published called The Lazarus Syndrome. Why Can't I Die? And I've had a lot of close calls. I've been declared dead numerous times. I can't say exactly how many because the first one was when I was extricated from my mother's womb. I was dead on arrival, but then because of that, I was very sickly, and I would have these incredible seizures where I would stop breathing, and my father would run me to the hospital, and they would always tell him, "It's too late. He's dead. Take him home." They wouldn't even check me. I mean, they said I was dead. Back then, they went by heart dead, not by brain dead. So if your heart stopped beating, they declared you dead. And they did that. I did that often. I asked my mother how many times did I do that. They said they don't know that. They didn't keep a log of it. It just happened often. I don't know how often it is. It could have been 5 times. It could have been 10 times. I don't know. But I know it happened again in 2017. I recovered from the seizures and I never died again in my youth. Uh, had close calls, but nothing that serious. I was never declared dead until 6 years ago, 7 years ago. So I've recovered quite nicely, and I keep going. So that's
So,
my book out. The book I have out now is doing fairly well. In fact, I have a book fair to go to on Saturday in Philadelphia. It's for Latino writers, local Latino writers, to present their books and talk to their readers and sign books. So I'm looking forward to that. And
so,
that's basically it. I Go ahead.
oh no, I was just going to say, what was the book for you? What was one of your favorite books growing up?
Uh, I read every one of Edgar Rice Burroughs' books, all 26 Tarzan books, all the Mars books, the John Carter, all his heroes were called John. Uh, I don't know why, but he seemed to like the name John. And later on in years, when I became more aware of reality in life, uh, I saw Edgar Rice Burroughs' writings as a little bit, well, quite a bit racist. Uh, it didn't bother me back then. I didn't think about it. I read about Tarzan, but uh, if I were to read it now, I would be upset with what I read. But I read everything, and I've always written. I tried writing poems. I've written for some newspapers, uh, public service announcements, opinion op-eds in different subjects on politics, on candidates, on gun control, on quite a few issues. I've kept myself busy, but when I was what helped me for by reading was that I was able to use my accumulated knowledge to get college credits without having to go to class. It I have, by the way, I wrote about that in the book. Anyone that is interested in going to college or knows of someone who wants to go to college, there are at least three methods where you can you three methods you can use to get your degree in up to half the time and naturally half the cost. I did CLEP, college level examination program. I did it with I speak Spanish fluently, so I got 12 credits for passing the Spanish test, which is the easiest for me. Then I did humanities, which is art, literature, music, uh, and architecture. I don't know anything about architecture, but I knew enough about the other three to pass the test. All you gotta do is pass it. You don't have to pass it with an 8 or 100. Then I did natural sciences, science. I want to be an astronomer, so I read a ton of books on astronomy. The subjects in natural science were astronomy, biology, chemistry, and geology. I don't know an igneous rock from a sedimentary rock, but I read enough books about biology and chemistry and astronomy to do well on that test. So I got 6 credits for that. Um, and the thing is, the test cost $90. I don't know if it costs more now. That was a while back, but it beats having to pay thousands for a class and spending 5 or 6 weeks in a class. When you just take a test, if you know the subject and can pass the test, you get the credits, and all you do is pay for the test. But you only pay for CLEP. The other examples of getting a college degree, college credits, they're basically free. For example, they have something called PLA, Prior Learning Assessment. I use my military training. If you have a certificate or a document or something says that you were trained in a certain way out of college, I'm not talking about college. It has to be out of college. For example, I converted my military training into credits, my police training into credits. I even got 1 credit for being a scuba diver. But you have to have a certificate. You have to have proof that you actually went to class and learned the subject. If you take a class in CPR and you get a little certificate that you pass the test, you can turn that into at least 1 credit. But anyway, the other ones I did, let me see, natural sciences, language, humanities. Oh, yes, of course. English composition. I'm a writer. That was a breeze. And it's a very simple test. You have to write 2 essays, but they don't give you a subject until you get there, so you can't look it up before you get there. They give you a scenario, and then you write a 100 or so word essay on it, and they judge you on that. Plus, you have to know what nouns and verbs and what a gerund is. Nobody knows what a gerund is. I know though. A gerund is a word that is both a noun, can be used as a noun or a verb. Most words are just either a verb or a noun, but gerunds are words that are both. Can be used. Anyway, so I ended up accumulating 30 credits through CLEP. That is a year of college, 30 credits for a year. Then I got another credit using PLA by getting the prior learning assessment with my police training and military training and whatever else I did. And then there's another one. Another way is called experiential essays. That means if you've done something, you don't even need a certificate. You don't have to prove it. Let's say you move from New Jersey to New York. You can write about the move and how it affected you, what you had to change, and your experience in doing it, your experience of moving from one state to another. That's all you got to do, and you get credits for that. Not as many as the other ones, but you can get credits. If you write a 1,000-word essay, you get 1 credit. 2,000, you get 2 credits. 3,000, you get 3 credits. I wrote 3,000-word essays in a week. I got 9 credits in a week just for doing what I love to do, right? And it's all about yourself, so you know yourself better than any other subject. And I wrote about things that I did. For example, my move from Puerto Rico to here, it was a traumatic shift. I had to learn a new language. When I got here, people didn't like us. They consider us immigrants. We're not immigrants. Puerto Ricans are migrants. It's like moving from New York to California. You're still a U.S. citizen, but we were not accepted as U.S. citizens back then. Now it's more common knowledge. So you're right about those things. If you, for example, I had to do several funerals for elderly, like my father, grandmother, and you can write about your experience in managing funeral, your situation with your negotiation with the undertaker, picking a casket, setting up services. All these things is things that you know that you've done, and you get college credits for it. It's a breeze. So I got my degree in 2 years instead of 4. I saved a lot of time. I didn't save any money because I was being paid by the military from the GI Bill. In fact, I lost money because I skipped 2 years of school by doing these tests, and I was getting paid monthly to go to school, and I gave that up because I didn't want. I was the oldest kid in the class. I mean, most students were a quarter my age. I was older than the professors, so I wanted to get out, get it done, and get out. And I found ways, and I did it. It's all in my book, in the new book, and also I have a blog in my website. My website is jreyesauthor.com, and I write blogs there too about gun control. But and I was already a writer, so most of the stuff I knew already. But if you don't know it, you can freshen up on it with they say Idiot's Guide to Chemistry, Guide to Algebra, Idiot's Guide to Architecture, whatever you want. And you read that book real quick and you go take a test. And
Excellent.
You avoid the class and the time.
Wow, this time just ran away from us. So if anyone out there wants to pick up your books, reach out, learn more about you, where's the best place to go?
Well, my website is jreyesauthor.com. All my books are there. I have 4 books. It's 2 books, but they're in Spanish and English, so they count as 4. I'm a bilingual writer. So if they scroll down, they'll see get my book, get the book. They click on that and they go right to the website, and they can order from Amazon or Barnes and Noble or whoever they do.
Sure, sounds great.
And
that's wonderful.
Everything's in there.
Okay, excellent. This has been wonderful. Thank you so much for your story. I hope we gave everybody whet their appetite to go out and delve more. So thank you for opening up. Thank you for your story, and continued success.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thanks for tuning in to another famous interview with Joe Dimino, where we cover the world of art, literature, business, spirituality, music, and more from around the globe. Our esteemed theme music was composed and produced by the great E.E. Pointer of Kansas City's River Cow Orchestra. If you want to hear more interviews, visit the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino channel on YouTube. You can also find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Thanks again for listening, and until next time.